At the anniversary party, my mother announced I'd hand over my apartment keys to my sister, right in front of 42 guests. When I said no, she started crying. I stood up and made one statement. 30 minutes later, a woman with a briefcase entered. Went white. The champagne glasses were already raised when my mother destroyed everything. I'm Olivia. I'm 34, a software engineer at a tech company downtown. I live in a 2-bedroom condo with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the river. I bought it 2 years ago after grinding through promotions, stock options, and more late nights than I can count. It's the first thing I've ever owned that felt completely, undeniably mine. My sister Natalie is 29. She's an aspiring influencer with 3,000 followers, a closet full of designer knockoffs, and a revolving door of jobs she quits because they stifle her creativity. She's never lived anywhere she paid for herself. Never owned anything she earned. And she's always gotten exactly what she wanted. Growing up, the pattern was clear. Natalie got the bigger bedroom because she needed space for her art. I got the converted den. Natalie got a new laptop for her birthday. I got a gift card to Target. When Natalie crashed Dad's car at 17, they bought her a newer one. When I got into MIT, they said they were proud but couldn't help with tuition. They'd already committed to Natalie's private art school. I learned early, if you want something, earn it yourself. Don't expect, don't ask, don't wait for fairness that'll never come. So I did. Scholarships, loans, 2 part-time jobs through college. I graduated, got hired, worked my way up. 5 years ago I started saving for a place of my own. Every bonus, every raise, every dollar I could spare went into that account. When I closed on the condo, I called my parents from the lobby, keys in hand, heart pounding with pride. "That's wonderful, honey," Mom had said, distracted. "Listen, can we talk later? Natalie's having a crisis about her latest photo shoot not getting enough engagement." I stood there in my empty condo, phone pressed to my ear, and whispered, "Sure, Mom. Later." She never called back. Natalie never even acknowledged it. Not a text, not a visit, nothing. 6 months later, she asked if she could use my address for a package delivery because her current apartment didn't have secure mail. I said yes. The package was a $400 handbag she posted on Instagram with the caption, "Treating myself, sparkles." Last month, my parents celebrated their 35th wedding anniversary. Mom insisted on a big party, intimate, she called it, though the guest list hit 42 people. Family, friends, colleagues. They rented out the private dining room at an upscale restaurant downtown, the kind with white tablecloths and a sommelier. I wore a emerald green dress I'd bought on sale, simple pearl earrings. Natalie wore white, flowing, off-shoulder, completely inappropriate for someone who wasn't the bride, but nobody said anything. They never did. The room glowed with candlelight. Conversations buzzed around me. Cousins I barely knew, my parents' work friends, Natalie's influencer circle taking selfies by the flower arrangements. I nursed a glass of wine and smiled when required, invisible in the way I'd perfected over 34 years. Dinner was served. Filet mignon, roasted vegetables, some kind of risotto that probably cost more than my monthly grocery bill. Dad gave a speech about love and partnership. Mom dabbed at her eyes with a cloth napkin. Everyone applauded. Then Mom stood up. She clinked her glass with a fork and the room quieted. "I have one more announcement," she said, her voice bright and wavering with emotion. "Something that shows what family really means." My stomach dropped. I didn't know why yet, but I felt it. The shift in the air, the way Natalie sat up straighter, the way Dad's smile looked suddenly fixed. As many of you know, Natalie is at a crossroads in her life. She's pursuing her dreams, building her brand, and she needs stability. A real home base to create from. Oh no. Olivia has a beautiful condo downtown. 2 bedrooms, gorgeous view. And since Olivia is doing so well in her career and doesn't really need that much space for just herself, the room started to blur at the edges. We've decided that Olivia will be giving her condo to Natalie. Tonight she'll hand over the keys and we'll celebrate this beautiful gesture of sisterly love. Silence. Then applause. Scattered at first, then building. Aunt Carol actually gasped and said, "How generous." Someone else called out, "That's real family." I sat frozen, my fork halfway to my mouth, my brain trying to process what I'd just heard. Natalie stood up, walked over to my seat, her smile radiant for the cameras. One of her friends was already pointing at us. She held out her hand, palm up, expectant. "Thank you so much, Liv," she said loudly, using the nickname she knew I hated. "This means the world to me. I promise I'll take such good care of it." 42 pairs of eyes watched me. Waiting. Expecting. Assuming I'd comply the way I always had. The way the responsible daughter always did. I looked at my mother. She was beaming, nodding encouragingly, like she'd just gifted me an opportunity to prove my love. I looked at my father. He wouldn't meet my eyes. He knew. He knew this was wrong, but he'd let it happen anyway. I set down my fork. Carefully. The small clink against the plate sounded impossibly loud in the expectant silence. "No," I said. Natalie's hand wavered. "What?" "No," I repeated louder. "I'm not giving you my condo." Mom's face crumpled. Easily. Dramatically. Her eyes filled with tears. "Olivia, please. Don't do this. Don't ruin this beautiful moment." "Ruin it?" I stood up, my chair scraping against the polished floor. "You just announced to 42 people that you're giving away MY property. My home. The one I saved for. The one I bought. And I'm ruining the moment." "It's just an apartment," Natalie said, her voice tight. "You can get another one." "It's not just an apartment." My voice was steady now, cold and clear. "It's mine. I earned it. Every square foot, every mortgage payment, every piece of furniture. Mine." Dad finally spoke, his voice low and warning. "Olivia, you're being selfish. Your sister needs help." "Help." The word came out sharp as broken glass. "When have any of you ever helped me?" Mom's tears spilled over. Real ones this time, not the performative kind. "How can you say that? We raised you, we loved you." "You raised me to be invisible," I interrupted. "You loved me when I was useful, quiet, and didn't need anything." The room had gone silent. Phones were out. Someone was definitely recording. I didn't care anymore. Natalie needed art school. I paid my own way through MIT. Natalie needed a car. I took the bus for 6 years. Natalie needed rent money, deposit money, credit card bailouts. I gave her $12,000 over the last 3 years. Did you know that, Mom? Did you know I've been supporting your golden child while you told everyone how self-sufficient I am? Natalie's face flushed crimson. You said those were gifts. You called them gifts after I transferred the money. I called them loans. There's a difference. Mom was crying openly now, mascara running. Olivia, please. We're family. Family helps each other. Family helps each other? I pulled out my phone. My hand was shaking, but my voice was calm. Then why am I the only one who's been doing the helping? I made one call. One button press. Hi, Catherine. It's Olivia. Yes, we're ready. The Riverside room at Maison Belle. Yes, now please. I hung up. Who was that? Dad's voice had lost all its authority. He sounded small. Worried. Hi, lawyer, I said simply. The room erupted. Gasps, whispers, frantic murmuring. Natalie's influencer friends were frantically typing on their phones. Aunt Carol looked like she'd swallowed her tongue. Your lawyer. Mom's voice cracked. You'd bring a lawyer to our anniversary party? You brought 42 witnesses to pressure me into giving away my home, I said. I'd say we're both making power moves tonight. I sat back down. Picked up my wine glass. Took a sip. My hands had stopped shaking. The next 30 minutes were excruciating. Dessert was served. Some kind of chocolate mousse that probably tasted like heaven but felt like ash in my mouth. Conversations resumed around me, but they were different now. Quieter. People kept glancing at me, then away. Natalie had retreated to the bathroom with 2 of her friends. Mom and Dad sat rigidly at the head table, not speaking, not eating. Then the door opened. A woman entered. Late 40s, sharp gray suit, leather briefcase. Expression of cool professional neutrality. She scanned the room, found me, and walked directly to our table. Good evening. I'm Catherine Morrison, attorney at law. I'm looking for Olivia Chen. That's me, I said, standing. Mom's face went white. Chilly white. All the color drained out of her cheeks so fast I thought she might faint. Catherine opened her briefcase. I have several documents here. First, a notarized deed showing sole ownership of the property at 1847 Riverside Drive, Unit 12B, belonging to Olivia Chen. Second, a cease and desist letter addressed to Richard and Susan Chen as well as Natalie Chen, demanding they stop making claims on said property. She placed the papers on the table. Visual. Undeniable. Third, Catherine continued, her voice carrying across the now silent room, documentation of all financial transfers from Olivia Chin to members of the Chin family over the past 6 years, totaling $94,700. These are being formally reclassified from gifts to loans, with repayment terms outlined in the attached schedule. Dad stood up so fast his chair toppled backward. You can't do this. I absolutely can, Catherine said smoothly. Any attempt to harass, coerce, or publicly pressure Ms. Chin regarding her property will result in legal action, including possible restraining orders and formal debt collection proceedings. He handed envelopes to my parents. Then she turned to Natalie, who had emerged from the bathroom, phone in hand, face splotchy from crying. Ms. Natalie Chin? Natalie nodded, mute. This is for you. Catherine handed her an envelope. A repayment schedule for the documented loans your sister provided. First payment due in 30 days. Natalie's hands trembled as she took it. She opened it right there, read the first page, and her face crumpled. I don't have this kind of money. Then I suggest you start budgeting, I said quietly. Catherine looked at me. I nodded. She nodded back, closed her briefcase, and left as calmly as she'd arrived. The room was utterly silent. 42 guests sat frozen, dessert spoons suspended, conversations died mid-sentence. I picked up my purse. Said, smooth my dress. Olivia. Mom's voice was barely a whisper. You'd really do this? You'd really sue us? Your own family. I looked at her, really looked at her. At the woman who'd raised me to be small, to be quiet, to give everything and expect nothing. You just tried to give away my home, I said. In front of 42 people. Without asking. Without shame. Without even considering that it might be mine to keep. I turned to Dad. His face had aged 10 years in 30 minutes. You taught me to be self-sufficient, Dad. Congratulations. I learned the lesson too well. I walked toward the door. Behind me I heard Natalie's voice, high and breaking. This isn't fair. I needed that condo. I stopped. Turned back one last time. I needed a family that saw me, I said. I guess we don't always get what we need. I left. Nobody followed. For weeks later I'm sitting in my condo. My name is on the deed. My furniture fills the rooms. My coffee maker sits on my counter. The river flows past my windows, indifferent and beautiful. Mom sent one email. I hope you're happy. You've destroyed this family. I didn't respond. Dad called once late at night. I let it go to voicemail. He didn't leave a message. Natalie blocked me on all social media. Her latest post shows her in a studio apartment, caption reading, "New chapter, finding my own way." The comments are full of her friends calling her brave and independent. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not even hurt. I'm just free. My cousin Jake called last week. He was at the party. I always wondered why you let them walk all over you, he said. Now I know you weren't letting them. You were just waiting for the right moment to stop. Maybe he's right. Maybe I was. If you've ever been expected to give everything just to prove you care, tell me, where's the line? At what point does sacrifice become erasure? I found mine that night in a room full of witnesses, with my mother crying and my sister's hand outstretched. The deed proved ownership. But that night proved something else. I own myself too. And I'm not giving that away. Not for anyone.